Okay, so next we're going to be working with examples with numbers and variables. And there's a little note here, you cannot simplify inside the parentheses first because you cannot combine numbers and variables. They're not like terms. This is when the distributive property really comes in handy. So earlier we noticed the order of operations still worked. Now we're going to throw in variables, and you're going to notice that we need the distributive property in order to simplify. So it says use the distributive property to simplify each expression. So again, when we use the distributive property, we're taking the outside number and we're multiplying it by everything on the inside. And so I always draw these little arrows and even maybe a little multiplication symbol next to my arrow so I remember I'm multiplying. So I have 4 times x is 4x. I bring down my plus, and 4 times 7 is 28. And that is in simplest form. 4x and 28 are not like terms. 4x has a variable, 28 does not, and we call it a constant because it doesn't have a variable. So this is in simplest form. That is simplified. We just use the distributive property to simplify 4 times the quantity x plus 7 to be 4x plus 28. Over on B, our number being multiplied is on the opposite side. That doesn't change anything. We take the outside number and we multiply it by everything on the inside. So 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 times 2, and this one's a little bit trickier because 8 times 2, we have to do 8 times 2 is 16, and then we can just tag the little n on at the end. Typically, we like the constants to be at the end and the terms with variables to be at the beginning and in alphabetical order. So I'm just going to rewrite this one as 16n plus 24 here. Just so that it looks a little bit nicer and looks more in line with how we'll write things mathematically. This next one, I've got my outside number, 6. I'm going to multiply that by everything on the inside, the quantity of 2p minus 5. And maybe I should be showing this step of work, so I'm going to start doing this. 6 times 2p minus 6 times 5. So 6 times 2p gives me 12p because 6 times 2 is 12, times p is just 12p, and then minus 6 times 5 is 30. I can't go any further here because these aren't like terms. 12p has a variable, 30 is a constant because it doesn't have a variable, and so this is simplest form, 12p minus 30. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to challenge you to do the next two on your own. I'm taking 3 on the outside and multiplying it by everything on the inside. So I've got 3 times y. I'm going to bring down my subtraction sign. Minus 3 times 8. And 3 times y we can write as just 3y. Bring down my subtraction sign. 3 times 8 is 24. These two things are not like terms, and so they are in simplest form. We've simplified the original expression. So at this point, I challenge you to pause the video and try the next two, and then check your answers when you're done. Hopefully you've tried these next two on your own, and now you're just checking your work. This first one, we should have multiplied m by everything on the inside. So m times 5 plus m times 2. Now, m times 5 we can write as 5m, and m times 2 we can write as 2m, to put it in a little bit simpler terms. Now, because these are like terms, 5m and 2m, they have the same variable and the same exponent, we can combine them to get 7m. And so 7m is actually my simplest form. If you got to this point, you understood distributive property. Now we're just going to take it a little step further and combine like terms. So we're going to do that once more here. W times 12 minus W times 4. So 12W minus 4W. Again, because these two things are like terms, they both have the same variable with the same exponent, we can go one more step. So if you got to this step, you understood distributive property. If you understand the next step, you understand how to use distributive property and combining like terms to simplify things even more. Because 12 minus 4 is 8, and so I have 8W here as my simplest form of that answer.